Yes, that will keep it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is go down to the mark, which I think I already, right there. So I'm gonna go down just a little bit further. I'm almost to this mark. This is kind of feeling like the right width to me. I'm like I'm not wedded to that mark. So I'm feeling like, that to me feels like a nice, width for this size bowl. I don't want to get too skinny, then it's gonna be kind of weird. So I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna go down just a little bit more and get rid of that mark. I want you to notice my hands. You see how connected they are? That is so important. Like my left hand is my guide. It's actually also a little bit of my force. So they're sharing the power. Left and right brain. So this is getting rid of the extra play. There's a lot, right? You guys, did you feel how much there was? It was a lot. So I can now go in a little bit more here because I know that curve is pretty round. And all I'm doing is shifting this very subtly and slowly to get the shape that I want. Does that make sense? Do you see how I'm not pushing that hard, but I am pushing hard enough, and I can angle it to get the curve that I want. So if I want this part to take more, I just push harder on that spot. Make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm gonna, so that feels okay. Now I'm gonna trim just the bottom. I'm just gonna kind of take one pass off, one layer. Not a big layer, not a super thick layer, just to make it really super flat. Now you can decide about what you want your foot to look like. I'm gonna make it a little more curved, I think. Although there is this kind of flare to the foot, or to the rim. So I might come under here and flare this out a smidge. So you can see how the different tools could be used for different things. Like different shapes, you can get a different outcome. Okay. So this next part, what I'm trying to do now is determine the width of my actual foot, the part that's going to hit the table. So you do want to think about that. It's going to hit the table. So if it's super thin, it's likely to break over time, right? Does that make sense? It's like fragile, clay. If it's too thick, it's fine. It's just thick. And so, but it will feel heavy. The base will feel heavy. So it's just a determination of how thick you want to make it. I usually make it like that thick, maybe a little bit like that. Did everybody see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I usually mark out how thick I want it. Now I need to go back in my memory and remember how thick it was. Who remembers? Yeah, good. Okay. So that means that the center is that thick. Is the part around the center thicker or thinner? Thicker. Why? But why?
Because
you and then you. What?
the shape inside the inside.
Yeah.
Left on the inside. It's round on the inside.
It's round on the inside. So the inside's going like this. So it's naturally going to get thicker as it goes towards the edge of this. Everybody good with me? Okay. And you can see it on this bowl really clearly. All right, so I want to take out some of that thickness. I know how thick it is. I only took the very tiniest bit off the top, so it's still that thick on the edge, in the center, and on the edge it's thicker. So I tend to kind of set my sort of my thickness, I set the width of my foot, and then I work on the center part. So I usually go down a little in the center, and then I make it go around, so I push harder as I get towards the edge. Take off a little in the center, and then push harder as I get to the edge. Now what happens if I don't take off any in the center? Or if I leave the center pretty untouched?
If it's as high as the foot or higher and this is that, like it'll rock?
It'll rock. Yep, and the center will touch. So then if you wanted to glaze the center, you wouldn't be able to glaze it because it would touch. That makes sense to everybody?
Is
Okay.
that deep enough to glaze?
Yes.
Not worry about? Okay.
Yep. Not double dippy stuff, but like a layer of glaze will be totally fine down there.
Besides the glaze, would that be not practical?
Say that again?
So if we don't do that, for about the center,
Uh-huh.
would not be a practical thing to use it?
You can't use glaze on the bottom if you don't trim out the center.
But then if I decide not to put the glaze on, then it's perfectly fine.
Then it's fine, perfectly fine.
I feel that way about my drawing.
Okay.
How would you recommend if we ever
Yeah, it looks really good right now.
Let it go. Sorry, y'all. That is the answer.
Part of the learning curve?
That's why if you are trying to get 2, maybe make 5,
Use it as a planter.
you can use it as a planter.
there you go.
Then you can try to be like, so my cultural competency thing I'm working on is how to let things go. And instead of letting this one go, I poked a hole in it. And then the things I'm working on, I don't know. You could spin
It's
it.
not there yet.
And we embrace it as it is.
Yeah, I'm embracing myself for all of my flaws,
Pretty hole.
and I'm going to, I don't know.
You could project the hole.
Centers the void.
So sometimes I'll put a tool on top and check it. I mean, this is a round tool, but like, you know, just to check it out, make sure I'm below. I want to just take out even a little more. And because I know how to tap center, I can actually just take this off and check it and then put it back on. And I won't have to try to do some other fancy centering business.
You can check it, like set it on a table.
No, yeah, I could set it on a table, but I could also just like feel it and see if it feels good. Now, one way to note to kind of figure out if the inside and is gonna so really what you kind of want is the bowl and the base to be like one shape. So you don't want there to be like the bowl and then the base is like whoop, way up here. You want it to kind of be like a flow with just a ring on top. That's what you sort of want it to be like. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
But so a lot of times what happens is we trim this part out and then we look at the side and realize that the center is actually lower than our edge. And that means there's a lot of clay still, most likely. Huh? Means I can get rid of some more. Because I do want that curve to happen. So I'm gonna look here. I can trim out a little bit more. Now some people perfect the art of tapping like this to see the thickness. I am not an expert tapper. I trust this more than I trust my tapping. Also, if you notice that it starts to go whenever you push on it a little, stop. You're really close to going through. It'll kind of sag, especially if it's a little bit on the wetter side. You'll get, it'll sag. Now don't do this too wet. What will happen if I do it too wet?
It'll just
Well,
fly.
yeah, just go straight through because I don't have anything on the inside supporting it. Right? Makes sense. All right. That looks better. Can you all see it from the side? Look from the side. Do you see how this part and this part, how I want to match it? It's like a one continuous curve. It still feels like it can go more. Getting nervous though.
Write it down in your clay journal.
Nervousness. Spells about nervousness.
I always make a calendar, right?
I'm gonna hold this finger.
Yeah.
Yeah, which finger matches?
I'm not making fun. It's
Out of
just funny.
balance.
It's funny to put all the things together and like be like, yeah, this is a lot, right? There's a lot
Yeah.
of things that we're holding. Okay. All right.
I
So.
would be so freaked out if you showed us this like the first week of work.
Well, that's why I don't do it like
That's why
that.
it's cool. Like I'm just saying, it's cool that we like know enough now to not.
You gonna eat out of it already?
Huh?
You gonna eat out of it already?
No. Gosh.
If you're
I gotta
spoon?
fire it and stuff, y'all.
I
I
didn't
can
know
eat out
what
of
you
it.
were doing with the spoon.
Oh. Good point. Okay, so a very, very important last step before I take this off. I need to compress this bottom. Why?
Because you exposed it, stripping it.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time like compressing my curve and stuff like that when I threw it, but not very much time. Not really. Not like when you're making a cylinder and you go across the bottom. I don't actually have, it's a much thicker amount of clay and I don't have as much I don't spend as much time down there, right? And so it's really, really important to compress your bottom. If you don't, compress your bottom. If you don't, you're very likely to get a crack. It's called an S crack. It's a stress crack. It's a stress fracture because the bowl can't do, it just doesn't want to do what you asked it to do. It wants to come apart. It needs a place to break, and that's where it breaks, is right here because that part's not compressed. So if you can compress it, I use a spoon. I generally use a metal spoon, but I don't have a metal spoon because somebody keeps taking my metal spoon. Crystal knows a metal spoon. Somebody keeps taking my spoon. I don't think it's Crystal.
I might be eating it.
Yeah. I probably took it out of my bin because I was like, I'm hungry. Whatever. Plastic will work fine. Metal works fine.
So you're just
It doesn't.
pressing down.
I'm pressing down, but not that much. It's really just compression. It's just a little. It's just enough. And I go back and forth, maybe 3 or 4 times, and that's plenty. So I didn't know that trick, and for years and years and years, I would get stress cracks like over so many bowls. I lost so many, and I learned that one trick and never lost one again. So that's the difference.
Does that crack happen when you fire it?
Yes, so you can't see it. Doesn't happen until you biscuit, and then you'll get it out and be like, oh, I forgot to do that compression thing she told me about.
Do people proficient at throwing bowls count on the trimming process